Hello and welcome back to Practical IT. We're going to continue on the analysis of the files that are going to be provided by the React.js. So we have seen on the previous video some of like the files that are available in the public and what their usage is, and also we have started to look on the files that are under the source. And as a reminder, this is the file, this is the folder we're going to be investing much of our time. But we are not limited to only the files that we have seen on app.js. We can see more, and we'll try to see a couple more on that one. Now, the next file that we see is app.test.js, and this one is a test file. So anyone who has a background in programming language, you would know that we're going to write a unit test for a functions or services or anything that we are going to be creating. And that's going to be a different part of programming as such. So so React is not also anything new as far as this one is concerned. So every time that we're going to be just writing, that we're going to be just writing like any kind of a feature, then a corresponding test file is going to be created, and we're going to be just having it in such a way. So just is going to be one of like the test framework that we're going to be just using. So as we go further, and we have like a section for testing, and we're going to take a look on that one. But the idea over here is we have for the app.js, and we're going to have like a corresponding app.test.js, which would be rendering and then checking if everything is working fine as expected. Going back to the app.js, you would see a couple more of like the import over here. So the first one you're going to see is on how we're going to be just using an image if it is available directly to us. So directly on the same folder as the previous one. So over here, you're going to see there is a logo, and that logo is utilized over here, right? So on 8. So that is what we see as a logo over here. And basically, this is the same thing as any image out there. So for example, if we go back to like Pixabay, one of like the free image website available. And if I, for example, right click on it, copy image address, and if I add it in here, and if I save that, and if I go back, then you're going to see whatever the image that I have posted there or pasted there is going to be in animation. Now, you would see that there is like the squiggly bracket over here. The squiggly bracket in this particular case is not making any difference. The idea is we're going to take a look more on this one on the component part actually, but the idea is whatever you see over here is a part of a JavaScript. It is also called like the JSX. So had it been like a normal JavaScript, you would know that this is not going to work out because there is no such thing as whether, unless this one is like a variable or a string, this would be complaining, but it's not complaining on this one. That's because it is going to be interpreted as such, and everything that you see over here is a part of a JavaScript. So if you are going to use any variable or a reference or anything, then you're going to have it under the squiggly brackets. So in this particular case, it is a value that we are having, so it doesn't create any problem. But in the earlier case, since we're using the logo, which was coming from as a variable that has been just imported from the other object, which is the logo.svg, and then that's what we are having over here, then in that case, we're going to be just having the squiggly brackets. The other thing while we are here that you would notice is a class name over here. And that is also another reminder that this one is still a JavaScript and what we call like the JSX. You cannot use a class over here because it's going to clash with the class of the JavaScript. So in that case, we're going to be just using class name, but basically this is referring to the actual class in the CSS. And just all 10 stuff that is just a part of like the image that we have been utilizing. So while we're here as well, you would see that this app logo is coming from this one. So just see like a little bit of a subtle difference on when we are importing the image versus when we are importing the CSS, we're not providing anything over here. On the logo, we're going to be just creating the object as it is. And we can give it like any name that we want, and we're going to be just consistent with that over here. And the app.css from the current directory is going to be just loaded over here, which is this one. Then you can see that the app logos are over here, and just the animation, which is making like the circle or going up, just from left to right kind of thing is going to be happening from the animation that we have had over here. So with that, we're going to be just adding on the app.js, like those imports were corresponding to the values that we have been using over here. The other value that the other file that we see on that one is the report web virals.js. This one is used for the performance testing, for the performance of like the page. How are we going to be just working with the performance? And it's going to tell us with a couple of like values in that. So the CLS is the cumulative layout shift. The FID is going to be just the first input delay. The largest content, the largest contentful paint is going to be just the LCP, and it goes on like that. Just for each one, we're going to have like the performance reading. Now, if you are wondering like how we're going to be just using it, so we can basically like import it over here. So we can say import report. Let me go ahead and then just copy that and do this, and from report virals, and over here I'm going to say report virals, and I'm going to say console.log. So well, basically this is, as I've said, since this one is like an imported stuff inside, or a variable for that matter, inside like the JSX, I have to enclose it with the squiggly brackets. So I'm going to do that. And if we reload this and go to like the inspect and this one, let me take that out. And if I refresh it, then you're going to see some of the values coming here that we have said for. So the first one that you see is the time to first byte. So that is going to be just how long does it take in order to get here, and any kind of like related, the performance kind of issues can be done on this one. And this one is going to be just very, very, very handy in that like the more you are adding like the component, you should have like a way, because like as a application gets bigger, we should have a way to measure, to test, or to see like if it is impacting the performance as well. So for that one, we can put it down with like somewhere, and then just take a look at it on how this one is going to be just handling the incremental values that we're having. And that's basically what it is all about. For the test, this is going to be just a setup associated with the test that we're having. The gitignore, this has nothing to do with the React, but rather this is with the Git. So anyone who's familiar with the Git, these are like the files or the folders which are going to be ignored when we are pushing our application to the GitHub. Package.js, we've already gone through that one. Readme, that markdown. This one is, again, mostly applicable when it is read by GitHub. So the primary one is for the GitHub, like on the main page of like the GitHub app, you're going to see this one is going to be just the one which would guide you what to do with this application. So, and also it's going to be just used as the documentation. But in general, this is a good habit. Like whenever you are having anything as a product, then someone has to be able to have some kind of like an idea on how to deal with it. So for example, with the yarn, then, like what are the syntax, what are the commands that we're going to use when we want to start, when we want to test, when we want to build. All that stuff is going to be just added over here. And you can read more about like the markdowns on the GitHub. Like there is, it is widely known one. So if you are familiar with Markdown or like a wiki, these are like a common kind of thing. So if you just simply Google Markdown, and then you're going to get like a bunch of like information on this one. But in general, this one is going to be just information which is regarding with the product that we're having. Yarn.lock, that one, this is when we are using the yarn as a package manager. The idea is we want to lock the package that we have been working on. What would happen as we go further is some of the package might be changing their version number. And with that, a couple of things could be changed, and then that would break our application. So what would happen is when you are trying to install or update, then just the yarn would check if it has already all the association, all the current version that's working. And then when someone is trying to get your application through clone, and when you are trying to do like the install, then in that case, it would be read from this one rather than just directly read from the latest or anything. That would be just keeping it like intact, that your application is still okay, up and running. So those are like the highlights of like the files that we have like at the beginning. So with that, we're going to jump into like the concept of like the component on the next video. Thank you for your attention so far, and I'll see you on the next video.